From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Wednesday, July 3rd. This is Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton. After 3 of their first 4 on the road, the Ticats will finally return to Tim Hortons Field Sunday, and they began practice for that today, mustering a lot of palpable enthusiasm for looking ahead rather than looking over their shoulders in disbelief at their 0-4 start. First, from practice, we'll note that running back James Butler, who missed Sunday's agonizing loss in Ottawa as part of concussion protocol, practiced today, and the Cats will wait to see how he weathered the full exertion to determine whether he's ready to play against BC on Sunday night. Defensive back Will Sunderland, who's been on the 6-game injury list, practiced and will be brought along slowly. And backup defensive lineman rookie Nate Dumoulin Duguay was in a walking cast and will be out a few weeks after being hurt on a short yardage play in Ottawa, the only time this year that Untitled failed to convert a 3rd and 1 as a quarterback. Dumoulin Duguay will be replaced by veteran Evan Johnson, but it's a setback for his development arc. The Ticats also brought in defensive lineman Deontay Knight, signed off the Argos practice roster, and had to make room for him by releasing former McMaster linebacker Enoch Lallier. We'll also take a look at the team cutting ties with new special teams coordinator Paul Boudreau, who'd come over only this year after a good run in Winnipeg, and replacing him with Dennis McKnight, who's a familiar face here after a stint in the June Jones regime and even a game last year. Levi Mitchell provides a thumbnail sketch of the winless start and will summarize how Scott Milanovich has not even been slightly hesitant to make significant changes even early in the season. First, special teams. The Ticats special teams, and I know some people have been calling them not-so-special teams, have been a problem since the exhibition games. And while many people feel that the Ticats dismissing Boudreau was all about Sunday's squib kickoff with only a few seconds left and the subsequent good return leading to another winnable loss, but Milanovich said that the contributing factors are never quite that isolated.
Anytime things like this happen, it's never one thing. I've been on both sides of it. I was let go a couple years ago when I was with the Colts, and this is a man that has a family. I had to go home and tell him. It's unfortunate, obviously, for all involved, and we wish him the best. Good man, and ultimately I'm responsible, and that's the way I look at it.
So Dennis McKnight comes back to town. He had a 12-year career as an NFL offensive lineman, has coached in several different leagues, including with the Ticats in 2017 when he was special teams coordinator under June Jones. And remember, that team started at 0-8 and almost made the playoffs. And the special teams were actually quite decent that year with Speedy Banks carrying the rock. And then he was the offensive line coach the following year before leaving for the XFL with Jones. He spent a lot of years with Jones at SMU, here, even last year in Seattle in the XFL, and is a hard-driving, very loud, very insistent coach. He doesn't suffer fools or loose ends lightly. He worked with assistant coach Jared Baines last year for one game to run the offense, while Milanovich had to miss a week to attend to a family matter, and he's very familiar with the players, or many of them anyways, and this organization. Here's Milanovich.
I spent a little time with him last year when I wasn't able to make the Saskatchewan game. He came in and helped out a little bit, and so I got to know him a little bit when I got back. As you know, high energy, loves football, fundamentals, toughness, back to the basics. I think a guy that the guys are going to rally around. I felt that today. I think there's an element of toughness and no nonsense, and let's keep it as simple as we can and let our guys play ball. He's also, obviously, as you know, spent a lot of time, even in the XFL, as a special teams coordinator. So he's got a deep background, really, in both. But it was a good day.
Levi Mitchell was at SMU when both Jones and McKnight were there.
First impression of Coach McKnight, I went to Katy High School, where on game day you wore a team polo. You weren't allowed to have tattoos, facial hair. Long hair. You weren't allowed to have piercings. So, pretty strict when it came to the football program. And then I got to SMU under June Jones and walk out to practice, and McKnight and Reinbold both had their shirts off, walking around, no socks, no shoes. And I was like, yo, what is going on right now? But just instantly just loved the character, right? Like, the guy brings it every day, same guy every day, win, loss. And I think that's what we need right now is win, loss. He's going to bring that energy. And, definitely a guy that's been around, NFL, CFL, everywhere, coaching special teams and other positions as well. And again, a guy that I know well, and I'm excited to have him here.
Now, while we've got Mitchell, he says that after reviewing game tapes, he hasn't lost his confidence in where the Ticats are heading, despite that 0-4 start.
Well, I think luckily, I don't think there's anything where I'm seeing it where it strikes me as, they're just better than us. I think that's a big thing. It's us beating us right now. It's penalties on first plays, right? Got to get rid of that. Offensively, can't have offsides. Finishing blocks, I think there's some, 5-10 yard runs that if we, get on a block or, receiver stays on a guy for a little bit longer, those could, squirt to, 20-30 yards, get some explosive runs. It's just doing those extra things to, be great, right? Like for myself individually, it's making sure that I'm booting out after handing the ball off and not turning back and watching, JB and Bell run. But ultimately, I think, details are always going to come up the most when you're losing, right? Winning kind of hides those things, and you kind of fluff it off, say, don't worry, I'll do it right next time. But you got the win, so you're not as on a guy about that. But I think details and just making sure that you're executing, obviously all the time, but especially at the right time, right? Like when it comes down to it, the last drive was great, but the 2-point conversion, I didn't execute. There's times in the second, third quarter there we just didn't execute as a team as a whole. So when I see those things, I think that's what I would say is the reason we're 0-4 and not 4-0, 3-1.
Casey Sales, the leader of the defensive line, is of the same mindset. Last year, the Ticats, then 0-3, won their fourth game against Ottawa, and this year, in the same position, but playing in the nation's capital, not Hamilton, they lost. Heartbreakingly, improbably, but still a loss.
And just going off this previous game, just 2-3 days ago, just a few mistakes away. Just small details that just need to be fixed. Just right off the head, first thing you kind of think of is few drop picks, 2 or 3. One could potentially be a pick 6, but there's a lot of plays, 20, 30 plays that can be difference makers in each game. 0-4, you can look at those big plays. First game, look at maybe some drop pass or something like that. I think that's what comes to mind when the fans and people on social media start to look at it. But breaking down the film, there's it's just a lot of small details. Those are some of the ones that pop out to people possibly. But it all comes down to small details, and we're trying to kind of tune those things a little bit, and just kind of day by day right now. So that's all we're doing, taking the meetings and practice and going.
Milanovich was asked what he's seen in the film room, where he's spent most of the hours between Sunday's final whistle and today's day 1 of the practice week.
I think the difference of us not scoring more points has been penalties. Just being in first and long or second and extra long. I think we clean that up, then we can be who we think we can be. Defensively, I think the changes we made last week were fruitful. I thought for most of the game, obviously we know what happened in the fourth quarter, but for most of the game, we played better defensive football. Our front four are dynamic. They're going to get after the passer. They're physical. They're tough to block. We made changes at linebacker. So I saw fruit there. And obviously it wasn't enough at the end, but it was something, again, I know you're hearing the same shit every week, but it's something to build on. From a special team standpoint, I think we're starting from scratch right now. And I think you're going to see energy. I think you're going to see physicality. Hopefully you'll see better returns. We'll have to prove that.
And that brings me around to what I've seen in the first couple of active months of the Milanovich era. He's decisive. He does not fear change or the timing of change. It's not common to dismiss a coordinator this early, and if it was going to come, I think most head coaches would have waited until after this weekend when the Ticats have their first bye week of the season. And after having the same defensive backfield, the one the staff anticipated would be the starting one most of the year, together for back-to-back games for the first time in Game 3 in Regina, he and his staff then altered the personnel positioning, leaving only 2 of the 6 defensive backs in the same roles. Many coaches would have said, wait a minute, let's trust the process just a bit longer here. Not Milanovich. He didn't like the feel of it, and more changes were made. His modus operandi so far has been fix it, or at least try to, sooner than later.
Yeah, I think there's a time for patience, and I think there's a time when you see the writing on the wall and it's time to make a change. And I think that's where we've been in a couple of different occasions, and I think it'll help us in the long run. And sometimes there's some growing pains in between, but none of those decisions are made lightly. None of them are made, off of one play or one game even. I mean, it's been now, 8 weeks we've seen most of these guys. So there's a body of work that carries over, and when you add it all together, then sometimes decisions have to be made.
I'm sure we'll be diving into all of that again as the week progresses, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for spending your valuable time with us today, and please join us again tomorrow as I discuss day 2 of Ticats practice and a look a bit more ahead to the Maid and the Hammer hometown heroes game Sunday night against the BC Lions.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.